Howdy, all you delicious people. I'm here today to review The Immaculate Room. So this is, of course, about a couple named Mikey and Kate who were persuaded by some doctor to be put into an experiment to have them be held in a white room for 50 days, 50 days. To me, obviously, it seems like this movie is to have been ripped off from Ghostbusters 2, because in the beginning of Ghostbusters 2, we had Egon, who is putting together an experiment, and he sees this couple that are going through marriage counseling, and he's weirdly upping the degrees in the room to see what'll happen. And so, like, this movie is the exact same thing as that experiment being done in Ghostbusters 2, as if someone may have saw that movie and be like, oh my god, this seems like a perfect idea. Probably not. So for this film, we have at moments where we see some darker sides of both Mikey and Kate, but for the most of this film, we, as well as the characters, are twiddling our thumbs through most of this movie to, for the most part, wait till it's over. Like, to see if they are to last the 50-some-odd days that they're supposed to last. At some points, we have these characters who, at the end of the 50 days, are going to get this $5 million payday, but they are to go on and have food through a normal set of days, and they are to also get these things called treats, which the treats aren't actually food also. The treats are actually these items that these people have to pay their own $5 million thing for to get. So, like, the first treat is to be 100,000. So they go on, and both of them end up getting the treat, and it's not like, it's kind of just these things that kind of get them through their days, or are to be something that might just give them this kind of relief of sorts temporarily, until we get to a much bigger treat, which, come to find out, is to create more friction between the couple than it helps. So there also seems to be certain items that feel very bizarrely placed, to where I'm going on and like, well, there has to be a reason why they put that in the movie, and they're going to use it, and, like, they can't just go on and just have this item randomly placed in this room and then they never use it. That would be the stupidest thing. And by the end of the movie, I'm like, aha, they use the item that goes into the room. So, with that said, being very vague, of course, because this is the tee-out version of this movie, I would say that this movie is not worth $6.99. It's really not exciting enough. It's such a slow build movie that, like, I was like, okay, great, this is like you can watch this movie in the background and it wouldn't matter because nothing is happening. This movie should be on a streaming service somewhere, probably on a Hulu, and not for a premium access thing for $6.99. This movie is, like, ridiculous in that aspect. I think the only reason why they have that price is to just kind of floated around to see if they can pay off their actors that were involved in this film. I for the life of me could not justify a $6.99 price for this film. So I went on and I was to find a number of apps that you can say that you could see currently at the second of this recording this movie for free. So with that said, the first thing that I'm going to recommend to people is there is a new app that I found today called Box UHD, and that currently is on a Google Play Store. You can download said app and be able to find any number of new releases, premium access stuff you would have to go on and go into another app somewhere and forcibly need to have a monthly subscription for something to watch whatever you need to, of course, watch there. The next app, of course, is to be an app that is currently available on a Google Play Store called 123 Movies. If you go on, there's a number of different apps that at some point will be called 123 Movies on a Google Play Store. You can go ahead and download. I had downloaded the blue one that has 123 on it, and I downloaded that, and I was easily able to go on and see whatever I wanted, and I was like, great, because like the other app that I had previously is kind of glitching out and not working that well, so I feel like I'm gonna have to go on and switch to a different app that of course is also called like TV Crush, and then it switched to like HD Movies 123 Movies, and now it's heavily glitching out. It's great. So then the third app, I would go on and tell people to go to a Google Play Store and search the word Yes Movies, and there is an app equivalent upon the Google Play Store. Like all these apps that I'm mostly suggesting are mostly through a Google Play Store currently at the second's recording. So you should be able to find them, download them, because I, of course, have used them today to find a way to better go on and find something current for everyone to use. So, but yeah, so there is also a Google search you can do called See Movies app, so letter See Movies app, and then you'll go on to find that this app is to have updated itself to Yes Movies anyways, and you can go on to find this app. So the grading of this movie, I would have to go on and say that yes, it is a bad film, but I really liked the performances in it. I think the performances had to really save this movie. There are some interesting moments in this film, but man, is there a stretch to really get there. But still, this is a bad film. And so with that said, let's just go into spoilers and actually go on and explain this movie and double five this bad boy up, because it's just about that time to go into spoiler time. Spoiler time is about the time to spoil this movie. So we have Mike and Kate who are tempted to go into this white room, and all they have to do is hit this button to go inside of it. So we have this couple at first who is very giddy, because I think all they're really thinking about is the $5 million and not the 50 days that they are going to spend in this very white, very plain room. So both Mikey and Kate are to also realize if the room is to be plain, then also everything else is to be as plain as possible. And so when finally Mikey and Kate are to realize, yeah, I think Like, are we hungry? Yeah, I think we're hungry. They go on and choose this thing of food that comes out as this like milk carton, and the milk carton just says the word food on it, and like, okay, like, so they're like, what could this food really be? So Kate is thinking it's like, well, maybe breakfast is going to be different, and so Mikey's like, I don't know. So Mikey tries this milk carton because Mikey will eat anything, and come to find out, Mikey realizes that this stuff coming out of this milk carton tastes like nothing, even though it's supposed to be like this like protein like thing that is going to get them through these 50 days. So Mikey is to also be reading the rules because I guess there wasn't much of a contract signing or them being fully aware of what is all going to happen here. They probably just signed their life away because they heard $5 million. So Mikey and Kate, of course, are to start making it through their days. And so every day they're going on to shower. And Kate, at the beginning of things, is to go into the bathroom and have this mantra that she's going to continue to say to herself every single day. And so Kate is to go on and meditate, and Mikey, of course, is to run around the room, like have them dance with one another, have them without music playing, have them kind of play kid games with one another. Um, and so like it all seems like all good and fun. And so Mikey at one point is to spot that there is a bug that makes it into their room. And so Mikey wants to take this bug and have it consume some of their food slash meal. And so Mikey starts pouring the beverage or the carton onto the ground, and all of a sudden we have the monitor who is to say that only the contestants can consume the food and not this bug. So, well, Mikey is just like, well, then I want to go on and like I want to like release this bug out, and I'm not going to actually leave the room, but I just want to throw this bug outside the door and then come back in. And they're like, no, you can't do that because you're going to go on, and if you stick one finger outside this door, like you have forfeited your winnings, and instead of it being $5 million, it'll be $1 million. So if they leave, like the price changes significantly. So we have both Mikey and Kate, and so they end up getting an argument about being a vegan and about being a meat eater. And Kate is upset with Mikey because Mikey is only a vegan because it's a trending thing or that it's a popular thing. And Mikey is giving Kate crap about her being a meat eater, blah, 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 blah. So we have Kate, we have Mikey, and who are arguing, and Kate is to walk away from Mikey and is to accidentally, which I'm sure she didn't accidentally, she steps on the bug. She kills it. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, Mikey, that I killed your bug. She did it on purpose. She killed it on purpose. So that solves that problem. So we get to the longer and longer stretches of these days, and from their street clothes that they are to have at the beginning of this, that they end up putting these clothes into this laundry chute that's in this bathroom. They then go on and get these scrubs in exchange. And so this room has rules. They have to keep the room nice and clean and whatever. And so it gets to the point to where both of these characters are just rambling, just nonsense, as Mikey is to even go on and see that there's writing upon his scrubs, and he starts saying exactly what all of the writing is and repeats it over and over in different accents and different approaches and different ways. Because honestly, like, I think there were certain points where, like, they just kind of let the people just kind of go with it to see what they would do within this movie, to just kind of like, okay, like, kind of during the scene, kind of like, do whatever you want. Like, we're just gonna film it and like capture it and do whatever you want. So maybe Mikey did that in the scene, or Hirsch did. So Emil Hirsch. So Mikey is to talk to Kate and is to mention about this story that he had heard, that seems very similar to this experiment. That, of course, was from a movie called Fame, where it seems that this man had gone on and taken to this family and had like documented them for a long stretch of time to just kind of see what would all happen. And so they go on and feel like this is the same, like, kind of similar thing. So the first night out, Mikey and Kate are in this bed, and Mikey's asking Kate, it's like, well, hey, like, do you think we should, like, like, do it? And Kate is just like, no, like, they're gonna be watching us. And Mikey's like, well, like, we're in the dark. I don't think they can see us. It's like, evidently Mikey doesn't know about like night vision cameras, and because that exists. But when looking at it, I'm sure there is possibly a way to go on and have sheets and whatever, but still, like, whatever these cameras would capture, these cameras would capture. So maybe that's why they pay them $5 million, because anything could happen. So Mikey and Kate go through these 50 days without making love. And so, with possibly how unhealthy these characters might be, because who knows what their previous life was, because we did not experience it before we went in this film of what their lives were like. We just went right into the room and knew nothing about these characters. So we slowly but surely see these characters start to more and more lose possibly sanity, and like, we haven't even gotten to like gotten past like the 40-day marker yet. We got 30 days in, and so both Mikey and Kate are to finally, like, Kate at some point is to turn to Mikey and say like, hey, like, how about we just finally give in and pay for one like treat to see what it is. And Mikey's like, are you sure? It's like, that's quite a bit of money to take away. And no, like, Mikey asks about the whole treat thing, and Mikey's telling Kate that's from his half the money. They're gonna go on and they'll take it from his half. We also have Mikey and Kate that are talking about a prenuptial agreement. So whatever happens with this money, whoever can go on and keep it. So, and all this stuff in the very beginning, uh, and I think it also at some point that they go on to uh, assess what they're going to do with this money and so on and so forth, like outlandish things where Mikey is mentioning that he's going to go off with Elon Musk and go out in space and do all these goofy, ridiculous things, and he'll do them twice because he has all the money in the world. So Mikey is to ask Kate about, like, well, hey, do you think we should take the first treat? And Kate goes on and says, sure, it's your money. So Mikey goes on and finds out what the first treat is, and it's this massive chalk crayon-like thing. And so Mikey then goes on and is to continue to draw on these white walls completely so that he is an artist and he is to be drawing all these things. And we have Kate who wants Mikey to just draw a portrait of her. And Mikey's like, well, that's not how I draw. Like, it has to be abstract, it has to be unique. And Kate's like, why can't you just draw a portrait? And Mikey is just like, well, also, like, that would be boring. And so Kate's like, just like, you know, I'm sick of just waiting for you to draw my portrait, so I'm just gonna leave. So Mikey starts drawing, and then he decides to just give up at one moment when he realizes that he can't easily go on, and he can't, like, draw the nose right or draw the eyebrows right, so he just kind of gives up and he kind of smears the picture. So we go further into this film to the point of them finally getting this relief by having these videos being shown to them of their family members. So at first we have Mikey who gets this video from his sister, and Mikey's pretending that he can't talk to his sister because who cares? And so Q is to tell Mikey, because she doesn't know if Kate is actually going to be there or not. And so Q is to mention to Mikey that she wants him to hopefully take this time and try to go on and get past, like, his old thing that happened with his brother in the past. And that also Q is hoping that Mikey is probably also going to get some time away from Kate, and Mikey is to look at Kate like, yeah, like, I haven't talked to her in a while, so I don't know what she's talking about. And so Q is of course Mikey's sister, and so she's like hoping that he's going to make it through this, and even though she's just kind of very, like, unsure if Mikey will be able to do something like this because it just seems out of character for him, so on and so forth. So we have to assume that probably from that dialogue that there's going to be a friction happening between these two couple, but then it gets worse. So next up is to be Harry Frith, who is supposedly Kate's father. And all of a sudden Harry is to pop up on the screen, and Kate's like, I didn't want this, I didn't ask for this, and she all of a sudden starts crying and wants this to be over, doesn't want to hear this guy's voice. So Harry is to, for the most point, because a lot of times Kate is just shouting, for the most point what we get from this dialogue is that Harry is to sing this song that he had sang to her when she was a kid. And Mikey is like, who is this guy? Um, like, I didn't know you had a dad. Like, I didn't know who this guy was. And so Kate goes on and just collapses as Mikey is to try and go on and comfort her and try to do the right thing here. So, but we come to find out that there had been a number of times in the past that Kate was to go on and have these emotional moments that was to conflict with Mikey's life. Kate was to go on and not like Mikey's friends, so Kate consistently had Mikey like go away from his friends so that both him and her would be all alone. That it seems that Mikey could not be really spending time with anybody because Kate will get emotional about it or upset about it, and really just have Mikey just be very controlled by Kate in order for them to keep this relationship afloat, is what we find in this film. And by the end of this movie, we finally have Mikey who throws that at Kate of having to deal with her for a number of XYZ time that they have been together, and that since Mikey had gone on and done all these things in the past, Mikey, by the end of this movie, is wanting Kate to do one thing for him, and we'll talk about that. And it's really not for them to go on and sleep together. Like, I would assume that that probably would have happened at some point, but it just doesn't. You would have thought. So, Mikey and Kate, like, are to have, like, a big amount of distance between one another. Mikey is to bring food to Kate, and Kate won't consume this. And so Mikey is to tell Kate, it's like, hey, like, you need to go on and, like, you need to get through this. Like, you need to, like, bounce back from this. Or otherwise you're probably going to die. Because we still have a number of days that are ticking away here, and for you to decide that you're not going to eat or just lay in bed, by the time that you are going to get out of here, how are you going to even get out of here? So, we have that kind of thing. So, Kate finally gets herself up, cleans herself off, goes into the shower, and is to tell Mikey, hey, how about you go on and you spend what is to be the next treat. And Mikey's like, well, that's like $250,000. Like, no. Like, I'm not going to spend that kind of money. Kate's like, no, go on and blow it. Go on and do it. So, Kate goes into the shower, and Mikey is to pay for this other treat to find out that it is Simone who comes in without clothes on and is to meet with Mikey. And this girl is to be an actress, and so it's like, wow, that seems like a huge massive stretch from who she really is. And Simone is to mention that she at some point is to have her person say that she is to maybe have to ad-lib in certain moments and whichever. But supposedly Simone has been paid up for a month to do whatever activities that they need her to have done. So more than likely, either way, whenever they were to blow through this money, like, this girl would have been there for as long as needed to, and then she would leave. So Kate is to come out of the shower, surprisingly seeing a woman there, and so Kate is immediately having Mikey take his shirt off to give to Simone, and he does so. So we have, like, Simone that, like, I don't feel like she's really doing anything to conflict with this relationship. If anything, like, she is just talking to Mikey, and Kate is already, like, paranoid about anybody being around Mikey, as that is the whole reason why I went on and said that whole bit of dialogue here and now, to make people aware of, like, Kate being paranoid about this girl, like, hey, when are they going to sleep together? Like, while my eyes are shut, while I'm sleeping, they're going to go at it. So, because, like, Kate isn't giving Mike anything. So, I'm just being honest, I'm just being real in the story. So, we have moments where Simone is talking to Mikey, and Kate breaks it up, and she's like, what are you guys talking about? And they're just like, well, nothing. Like, we're just talking. So, like, Kate is just like, So, there is a moment where they are supposed to go to bed on their first night, and Simone is just kind of unaware about any of this. It's like, okay, I guess this is happening now. So, what they do is Mikey is to say, it's like, well, hey, I'll go on and I'll sleep on the floor. Like, why not have, like, one, given him, like, why not have had Mikey, like, just taken a blanket and, like, propped himself up a pillow or even some kind of, like, cushion between the floor? But no. Like, you could have gone on and given Mikey, like, all the blankets, and they could have just slept on the mattress and pillowcases, and that would have worked out. To have him have a bed on the floor. But so Kate is going, no, like, we can all three of us go and sleep on this bed, so that's what we're gonna do. So Mikey, like, the way that the bed is set up, so we have Mikey, Kate in the middle, and then Simone. And so that's how they go to bed. That's how they go to sleep. So before Simone was also to arrive, there was a moment, oddly, where they found a gun in the bathroom. And so they look at the gun, and it's like, where did this come from? And Mikey's like, I don't know. I didn't bring it in here. And so, because there's nowhere else to put this gun, they just put it underneath the middle part of the bed and sling it underneath there. Just be like, well, okay, that solves that problem. Because whoever was to bring the gun in here, it's going to be difficult for them to go on and get it. So, like, are we okay? And so that's when Mikey and Kate are to really realize here that this room is effing with them. But we go even further to find out more things. So, Kate is to spend her first treat, and come to find out the first treat is ecstasy. So, Mikey, Kate, and Simone take ecstasy, and out of the three, we have Mikey, who is heavily hesitating about taking it. And Kate immediately takes it and then gives it to Simone. So, but Mikey was thinking that maybe he shouldn't go on and maybe he shouldn't take it. And so it's like, well, hey, it's up to you. So Mikey takes it, and so all three of them at some point are to feel this high, to have Mikey going on and looking at his hand and then fall backwards from this little bench that they have. And we have Kate and Simone that are messing with one another's hair, and so this leads to all three of them at some point kissing. And so we have at some point where Simone disappears. And so Simone is to write a letter on the wall to supposedly Mikey to say that she has never been with somebody like that before, and like, and that kind of writing to assess that Mikey had slept with Simone. And now Kate is asking, well, what did she mean by that, Mikey? And Mikey's like, I don't know, I didn't do anything with her. And so, because of that thing of lettering being put on there, Kate won't let it go that Mikey was to have slept with Simone, even though, again, this room has to go on and twist the screws, mess with people, and how they're not going on and getting that and understanding that, and how they're just going to go at each other's throats because of the time allotted here, and how they can't trust one another, slowly but surely starts to trickle down this relationship. And so the more and more the two of them end up getting more and more upset with one another, mentioning all of the sacrifices that they've had to make for one another, and also mentioning that the two are to be different because, of course, Mikey's family was to come into money where Kate's family had not. And so, more and more, they are to gripe and to argue about their differences. And at some point, Kate is to push Mikey back to have him smack into the corner of this room and have him start bleeding from the back of his head. And so now Kate is to try and nurse this wound as it continues to bleed. So, and this is still, I think, uh, like by now, like we've gone on to, like, still had there be a massive accumulation of days left. I think it's like 20 to 16 days or something like that. Um, like it never really shows, like it just shows you like the first time, and then you just have to naturally assume like there isn't a real countdown, like they don't really tell you how long that they've really been here, which irritates the crap out of me about a survival movie when I don't know how many length or stretch of time that these people have really been doing what they've been doing. So Mikey, now that he's bleeding from his head, is to finally say, okay, now that I'm bleeding from my head, I want to leave now. Like, I want to go. And Kate is telling Mikey no, like, because then the payout will only be $1 million. And Mikey's like, I don't care. There's more things than money, and I might die. I might bleed out. So Mikey starts to go for the door, and Kate grabs the gun to fire into the ceiling, wanting Mikey to stay because there's a lot of money on the line here. So I would be kind of interested they if they ended up killing a person. Like, would that go on and dwindle down the money to $1 million? Or if Kate would have killed Mikey and kept his body there, like, would they have still gotten the payout by the end of this? Even though Kate would probably be spending the rest of her life in prison, because technically that's still a crime, that's still murder. So, what if Mikey bled out? Would Mikey or Kate, like, would Mikey have next of kin, or would have Kate's, like, gotten this money? Because these people who were to have done this experiment probably would have gotten on and gotten arrested for murder because they let this person die. Because I guess there's no treat for a doctor in this whole thing. There's not a medical guy that walks in to go on and check up on these people. So Mikey leaves, hits the button, walks out the door. Kate allows him to do that. And so, come to find out, Mikey survives by the end of this movie. Surprise. And so, Kate is to go on throughout the rest of her days and make it to the end of this and is to be tempted to hit the buzzer at the door. And then we cut to seeing both Mikey and seeing both Kate, and they are outside. And so Mikey is jogging around and bumps back into Kate and is like, "Oh, hey, yeah, Kate, um, did you make it? Did you make it to the end? Did you make it to the last day? Did you do it?" Because of course, by the end of it, Kate and Mikey's relationship was done by the end of that. Like, we have Mikey who's like, you know what, I'm done with this relationship. Like, they realize how they were not really ever good for one another. There was too many differences between them, and it finally, by the end of those 50 days, tore them both apart, made them realize that that they were just not good for one another. And so Mikey, after dumping Kate, is to turn around and leave this whole thing without the money. So Kate, we now have to assess if she made it through those days, and come to find out by this sign going on and telling us that Kate had donated this mass donation to this St. Mary's location that I believe her father was in. We have to assess that Kate had won that money and probably took most of it and donated it to her father's facility to possibly get closure from her father, or to do any number of things we don't know. So, because it seems that Kate is to go on and know where her father lives, it is to, of course, be this kind of homeless shelter that is taking care of him. And so, yeah, that's how the movie just ends. I'm going to try to quickly get out of here because I know that this is a long stretch of a thing, and there aren't really much of events here. The last thing we end up seeing is a new couple that come into the Immaculate room that, of course, are saying, hey, this is gonna change everything. And boom, the credits roll. I'm not going to go on and say who those characters were because it honestly doesn't matter, because we're probably not going to see a sequel to this film. And if there would be a sequel, I'm sure it won't be all that exciting as the original. Man, there really needs to go on, and they need to really up the ante with things that they're going to do within that room. Psychologically, I don't think they really got under these people's skin to get to them enough to really have them be to a point where they're like, dude, I want to get out of here. Come to find out, Simone, Kate was to mention that the girl who was to be Simone looked exactly like Mikey's ex-girlfriend, and the reason why Kate was so paranoid about that girl being there is because she looked just like Mikey's ex-girlfriend, and Mikey might go on and be even more persuaded to be with this girl. We also had Mikey, who we come to find out is, while they are going and taking ecstasy, Mikey was to go on and have this bad trip, reflecting on his brother, Sean, who had drowned in this pool, as Mikey was to try and go on and save him. But also at the same time, Mikey was to have taken drugs during that same time, and he could not go on and save his own brother from his possible drowning. So Mikey has a bad trip during the time he takes ecstasy, and all of this water goes on to appear within this room, starting to drown Mikey within it. And this is to be all in Mikey's mind because he's having a bad trip. And Mikey starts yelling out for Sean. And so Kate has to explain to Simone that this was his brother that had died. And so Simone is to have this moment with Mikey to mention how she has had a bad past also, and that she can relate, and like gets them kind of closer together to where they're holding hands for a moment. Kate realizes that and gets very paranoid. It's like, hey, why are you guys holding hands? And Mikey was telling Kate, it's like, we were just having a moment here. Like, we were just having this moment where we're sharing things, and I had to explain to her, like, what, like, just happened. Because she, like, I didn't know that she knew. So, you know what would have been really been interesting? If all of a sudden Kate was the one who would have cheated on Mikey, and we would have found out about it, and that would have been an interesting part of this story of the girl who is to go on and be overly paranoid about her relationship is to go on and immediately cheat with this woman from Mikey, and that would have been all the reason for Mikey to then go on and have Kate say that by the end of this, and Mikey would have been driven even more so to leave beyond them breaking up and beyond his head bleeding. And that would have been an interesting part of the twist of this story. So anyways, I'm going to go on and I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.